to half of U.S. states, including North Carolina, the death penalty is written into law. However, our state has not executed anyone since 2006.
The murder of a child in Wilson County prompted our Investigates team to dig into the death penalty policy. WR's Colin Browder reports from Central Prison in Raleigh with some background and where things stand today.
137 inmates are currently housed here on death row. That number keeps dropping. And in fact, since 2006, the overall number of death penalty cases has fallen. Why 2006? Well, that's when lawsuits put our executions here on hold. When Darius Sessoms entered a plea Thursday for the murder of 5-year-old Cannon Hinnant, it meant life in prison without parole instead of the death penalty.
It's not nearly enough what he deserves. He didn't get justice today. We didn't get closure today.
Still, not even a capital conviction would guarantee his death. The state hasn't executed anyone in 16 years when litigation over the lethal injection drugs used and whether a doctor must be present sidelined cases. Then high-profile death row exonerations and racial bias research compounded questions.
I think all of those sort of culminated in an increased awareness.
Dr. Matthew Robinson, a criminal justice professor at Appalachian State University, has published various studies on the state's death penalty.
I don't oppose the death penalty on ethical grounds or on moral grounds. I oppose it as a scientist that studies policy. It's simply just bad policy.
Since execution stopped in 2006, records show 20 inmates died of natural causes on death row, more than the 19 people sent there by convictions. Plus, 38 death row inmates were exonerated during that time or had sentences commuted to life.
If the death penalty were deterrent to murder, you'd expect murder to go up when the state stopped executing, but in fact it went down.
The state spends more than $42,000 a year to house each inmate in maximum security. At the same time, death penalty cases cost 3 to 5 times what other murder trials cost, and taxpayers helped cover hundreds of millions of dollars spent on settlements for wrongful convictions. Bad policy or not, Dr. Robinson expects death penalty cases that don't actually execute will continue.
My suspicion is that we'll continue on like this for who knows how many more years, if not decades.
Dr. Robinson believes that's because we've reached sort of this middle ground where death penalty supporters can say we're still doing capital cases. Opponents can say there's a moratorium on executions. National polls tell us that the majority still favor the death penalty, but back in 2019, for the first time, a public policy poll showed here in North Carolina, most people favor life in prison over the death penalty. Colin Browder, WRAL News, Raleigh.